In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to another edition of In Full Zoom. I'm your host, Nestor Lecanto, and I'm pleased to welcome our guest this week. We're going to talk a little bit about all this federal assistance that will be provided to struggling restaurants who have been hit hard by the pandemic. Let me introduce Ken Lujan, who is the branch office manager for the SBA on Guam. We have the chairperson of the Guam Hotel and Restaurant Association, Marie Guerrero, the president, Mary Rhodes, a very familiar face to us, and Frank Kenny of Jamaican Grill. Yaman, with my terrible Jamaican accent. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thank you for having us here.
Hey. Thank you.
All right, let me set the table, if you pardon the pun, with Ken. Tell us, Ken, a little bit about this Restaurant Revitalization Fund.
Well, the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, or short term, we call it the RRF. That was established by law on March 11th of this year, last month, through the American Rescue Plan Act, the ARPA, which allowed the SBA to award funds to eligible businesses that were affected by the pandemic. Approximately $28.6 billion was actually earmarked, to this appropriated act for the purpose of helping the restaurant organizations, the revitalization of the restaurant industry. This appropriation would actually last until the money ends, so it's on a first come, first served basis. And so the funds can be utilized no later than March 11th of next year, 2023. So you have more than ample time to utilize the monies once it's issued out to you. But of course, they have to keep the documentation going. So the funds are available for the community once it gets launched, hopefully by next week.
Okay.
Actually, I think they can go to the website now to get more information.
Okay, let me go to Mary. So you've been working with local restaurants, as Ken said. It's going to be a first come first serve basis, and so we need to get those applications in as quickly as possible, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been sharing information on this program for some time now. The National Restaurant Association, which GHRA is an official member of, they have been sharing this, and I know that it's taken some time to really get the site going. And then also they have a sample application, so you can kind of already start to prepare for this. But they are going to launch a 2-week pilot period to get everybody prepared. And so that's really important, is to start getting familiar with this. It is different from PPP and EIDL and other programs that have been available. So there are a lot of other eligible expenses that's available in this program, which I think is extremely exciting. And then also it is targeted towards women's, veterans, socially and economically disadvantaged groups. So there are caveats to this program that really truly will benefit a lot of businesses, independent operators of restaurants here on Guam. But it's not just restaurants, it's also caterers, food trucks, other types of entities. And so if, even an alcohol producer, manufacturer, so if any of those businesses need assistance, they can contact GHRA at info@ghra.org, or contact us. You can call me directly as well at 687-3633 or GHRA at 649-1447.
Yeah. And Marie, you're also a restaurant operator and a caterer. Tell us how this RRF can assist your business.
Oh, this is really just such a silver lining in the bigger scheme of things right now. We've benefited from all the programs that have been availed to us, but this specifically is something that really would help. And like Mary is saying, it's used for different things. So we can use it for other items that won't necessarily be used for that the PPP may have covered. But more importantly, I think for us, this will definitely just be a silver lining for us. It's monies that we could definitely use, especially now. And it's just hope for us down the road. So we're definitely going to look forward to this. I'll speak on my company because we do fit under the women, we're trying to get into that category. I know that SBA, we've changed some of the dynamics of how you certify. But I mean, right now we're really looking within the company on how we can be the first in line for this type of thing. So we're grateful, no doubt.
All right. And Frank, for Jamaican Grill, are you going to be applying, and what sort of things will you need the money to use the money on?
Well, Nestor, when the program was very first launched, I thought for sure that we would apply and hopefully be successful, as with the PPP fundings that we were. However, as information started coming on out, we realized at Jamaican Grill, we do not actually qualify for the RRF, because one of the main stipulations is you have to have a pandemic loss still. So as an example, Jamaican Grill did incur a significant pandemic loss, 2020 versus 2019. However, that loss was made up based on the infusion of 2 PPP programs. So because we've made that loss back on federal dollars already, we as a business enterprise actually do not qualify. So that's one of the first things I think that restaurateurs need to know, right? And looking at their books and their overall, pandemic loss, 2020 versus 2019. And then from there, with the federal funding on those PPP programs, is there any left over from a loss standpoint? And if so, then I believe they can move forward in the application process.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
Right. Ken, Frank makes a good point. Whatever you made off the PPP is going to be offset, right? So what are some of the other issues that were spelled out in the guidelines that were just released?
Well, Frank made a very good point on that, because we saw that, for every calamity, there's opportunities. And unfortunately, this is a very large calamity that's occurred nationwide. But some of the restaurants have actually taken advantage of it, because they provided takeout services, and they provided some other means of providing back to the community. So in essence, they recovered from the losses, as Frank had mentioned. And these funds are actually funds that are not paid back. It's not a loan program. It's actually grant monies that actually are going to be given out to the community. So they do need to meet those eligibility requirements that SBA has. Mary had mentioned that the food stands and food trucks are eligible for it. Restaurants, franchises are actually eligible for the program as well, but they have to be registered in SBA's franchise directory. So there are certain things that we want to ensure that they're eligible, and so it's always best to either contact my office or work with GHRA and see what if you qualify with the program. So. That's the key thing. First off is, do you qualify? And I think once you ascertain if you met those requirements, then I would pursue going after these funds.
Yeah.
Nestor, we've been
Sure.
actually working with SBDC as well as SBA. SBDC is a really great resource for a lot of businesses who apply for these programs with SBA. And so I know between Ken Lujan working with SBDC with Frank Granillo and Angel and the team, we actually had SBDC in one of our hotelier and also our restaurant chapter meetings a couple of weeks ago, because we wanted to make sure they provided their services. They provide consultation services for all of the federal programs. And currently they're doing onboarding for the RRF. And they did speak to a lot of the eligible expenses, and they have consultants who can work out what your gross receipts are less the eligible expenses. And I think that's really important, because Frank mentioned what they weren't eligible for as soon as they started seeing that the numbers. But as what Ken said, you take your gross receipts and you can minus, like some of the PPP and EIDL programs, you can only refer to so much. But with this program, you can do rent, utilities, but also anything accommodating outdoor seating, any of your protective PPE, any of your cleaning materials, your to-go containers, all of the things that you use during a COVID environment as part of your operational expenses, as well as paid sick leave and other things that are part of maintaining operations. So this is a very unique type of program. And the fact that Ken said also that you don't pay it back, it's truly a grant. But it is first come, first served. It is capped, I believe, at $10 million. And so there are huge opportunities for a lot of our local businesses who qualify and have these eligible expenses. So SBDC, SBA, and GHRA are working together so we can provide these resources available to you, assist you to apply, because time will be very limited and dollars will be very limited to this. And we're hoping that Guam will be one of the larger markets to apply overall, because there are a lot of things that Guam is eligible for, but also not eligible for. And so we're very grateful that the territories were included in the RRF.
Yeah, Maria, give us an idea of some of the extra expenses that were incurred by restaurants as a result of the pandemic, like those plastic
Barriers.
or barriers and stuff.
Right.
What are some of the extra expenses that you've had to take up as a result of the COVID?
Well, in general, our labor expense went up completely. Just having people to come in and do the once around and make sure everything was sprayed down and sanitized, following that regimen to make sure everything was clean, everything that was frequently touched. So definitely labor. As far as our operation, in our restaurant, it's the buffet serving, because now we have service attendants. So on a floor that I could run 3 or 4 servers, I have to now run 5 and 6 so that they can accommodate, because if we're running a buffet, then they have to serve. So my labor absolutely has gone up by COVID, which is a plus on the other hand, because people are out working and I'm able to keep my guys still employed. So not to say COVID is a plus, but my labor has increased. And see, that's a whole different hat, because then it's trying to get people in and getting them to work and fighting with KUA, and that might be a whole different conversation, but there's that. And then in general, our to-go, our plastics, our papers, our everything that goes out the door now has increased so much. So we're definitely having a lot of expenses on that, having the PPEs. It's for us operationally, we've definitely been hit with some extra expenses. I think those are the 2 biggest things right off the bat that is that shines for me right now.
Yeah,
the takeout stuff and our labor has just really gone up.
And Frank, I know you said earlier that your business is not eligible at this point for the RRF, but as a longtime restaurateur, I'm sure you would recommend that those who are eligible, they should apply, yeah?
This is a once in a lifetime opportunity that's never come down the pike, because this is a once in a lifetime pandemic that we're all going through. I thank every day that I'm an American citizen and the federal government steps up to bat to infuse significant money into our community overall. And as it relates to restaurants, right? Yeah, just a once in a lifetime opportunity. So I would encourage, as this particular news feed goes out, Lester, if there's anybody out there listening that that's either in the restaurant business, has family or friends within the restaurant business, please try to inform them that there are, how should I say, opportunities at SBA and the Small Business Development Center at UOG. And it's their job to help entrepreneurs, restaurateurs in this specific case. But they need to act quickly. They need to act fast. They have to get their paperwork and ducks in a row, because I believe the application process is getting ready to launch, as Ken was saying. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. And speaking of that, Ken, can you tell us a little bit about this web portal that's going to go live, or is it live already?
It should be live right now. It's restaurants.sba.gov. That's the SBA platform that they can use. If you're trying to obtain just general information, you can go to sba.gov/restaurants. In that, they have the guidelines, they have the application format, the samples, and other relevant information on the RF. There are other venues in which you can use what's called a POS vendor or point of sale vendor that they've identified back in the mainland. Unfortunately, we don't have it here in Guam, but you can easily tap into them if you want to utilize their services. The third method is you can call number 844, area code 844-279-8898. That's the telephonic application process that you can do. The only problem with that is it becomes longer. The processing time may be longer because of the distance and the time zones that we may have. So the best bet for everyone to go into is go to restaurants.sba.gov and look at the SBA platform for this funding.
Yeah, and what kind of documentation, what kind of paperwork should they have handy?
It depends on the type of organization you are. If you're a sole proprietor, corporation, partnership, there's gross receipt documentation. You probably need the 4506T, which pretty much the whole business community knows what that is. That's the IRS form to request for verification of tax information. There's the application that SBA has, the 3172. So there's a list that's identified within that platform of items that you would need based upon the type of organization you do have.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
Okay. And Mary, tell us a little bit more about the outreach that GHRA is planning to get our local restaurateurs to apply.
Well, first and foremost, again, we've been sharing it with our membership. Today, we will be sending out all of the available resources. I know that Marie and I were talking just the other day, and there are some things that SBA has put out about some of the key things you need to have. And there are some sample forms, like I said, already available through the pilot. So we're going to be sending that out to our membership, but also as a press release out to the public, together with your, combined with your programming, I think is going to be really important. And so with the press release, we're hoping to get additional coverage on sharing the news out to the business community. And then also through joint efforts with SBDC, again, they are doing the onboarding this week. So they have, I believe, 8 consultants who already have clients, and some of them could be in these different categories that qualify. So they have their own programs and clientele that they have available to them. But just so you know, GHRA has been also reaching out to the business communities for our vaccination clinics. And so as we're continuing to update our employee vaccine data and getting additional vaccine clinics completed for this month as we continue our path to half with the governor, as well as the reopening task force with GBB and GHRA and the governor's office and public health. I think it's really important that we not only update our employee census, get the vaccines out there, but again, promote this program, knowing that there's a short window of applications that will be accepted. And so I think it's also important to let people know when the dates, they'll be able to use these funds through 2023, as long as the eligible expenses are there. So I think this provides a really big window, because a lot of people are always worried about, a short time frame, but this program really allows flexibility for people to exhaust the funding before having to return it, not pay it back, but return any unused funding for eligible expenses. So I think it is really flexible. So I really want to thank, Nestor, you, Jason, the whole KUAM team for always working with us to share information like this out to the community. But it really starts with you and getting the public information out there. And so we're hoping other media outlets will pick it up once we send the press release out, and we'll be able to get this out to all of the business communities. And again, share it with SBDC as well as SBA to their existing clientele as well.
Yeah, well, we're always happy to help you, Mary, and we're always very receptive. Whenever you give us a call, okay, we'll put you out.
Well, there's one other thing. I did reach out to Daphne Shimizu, the director of DRT, a couple of weeks ago. They've been compiling the list of all the businesses for us, so we could compare the data of, because we don't know who's still in business, who's still currently licensed, in order for us to vaccinate the tourism community and really all of the business communities, because we have had to open it up to all the other general businesses, so outside of tourism. So we're hoping that that list from Daphne and her team at DRT will be able to do more of a community outreach directly to each of those businesses, again, to accommodate our vaccine request, to increase vaccinations at the employer site, as well as to get the RRF to all of those eligible companies.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc. GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information. In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.
All right. And while we've got a few minutes here, I just wanted to give Marie and Frank an opportunity to share and to kind of personalize this whole impact of the pandemic on the restaurant industry. Obviously, the Congress saw fit to pass about $28.6 billion to help restaurants that were hard hit. So Marie and Frank, if you could, Marie, start with you. Tell us just how badly did this pandemic hurt the food and beverage industry?
Well, I will say this, and I'm actually blessed because we're in Tammany, and I feel my heart goes out to those restaurants in Tumon. So I'll just start by saying that. I know that they are really feeling it in a way that I wouldn't dream or could imagine. Here in Tammany, for us, we definitely have, like everybody else, it's just been, such an awakening in so many different ways. For me personally, it just showed the strength of the team that I have that stood through this whole thing. And more so, it really spoke to a lot of the relationships that we had in the community. So first off, I'm going to start by saying that I'm thankful for that. The relationship we have, that B&G and my business partners have kind of, nursed and just kind of grew organically from when we started, and it's showing through now. So I'm grateful for that. Now, on the flip side, this is probably the toughest time I think I've ever seen in all of my 50 years, 2 weeks from now, 50 years. And it's definitely, it's hard. It's hard to look at people around you and see them suffering or see them jobless or see them however it is. I think in the company, having somebody have COVID positive, that was one of the things that as a company, Mark and I had to really sit back and say, okay, what are we dealing with? This is real. This is right in our door. How do we deal with it? Because now we're affecting families. So getting through that initial, that we have it in our front door and it's real, and getting through that process was probably the hardest for us. And as far as the business goes, again, I can say that although it was really hard financially, and the vendors were open to say it's okay, we'll wait, and the customers were there saying okay, so we're in a good place, really through it all. I will say, when I look at Tumon, I have nothing to complain about, nothing. I'm glad that we're able to service the frontliners and the community and homes and everybody else. So personally, I don't know if I'm saying good or bad. It's definitely not the greatest, but I can tell you, we're happy at Three Squares to know that people enjoy our food, the location, and that we're still able to give our guys a job here. So
Right.
we're just grateful for that. But I will say with this fund, some of the stuff that Mary had talked about, and if we do, and able to avail, I think for B&G, looking at the longevity of where we want to be, because, we still want to be standing in the next 25 years, right? This is home for us, is some of those funds, like Mary said, can be used for construction for outdoor, and I think our normal is not going to be what it was 2 years ago. So I think if we can set ourselves up and we can set up a place that we all can be proud of and help the people around us to look around and say, this is where we should go. This is our trajectory. Then, I'm glad that we are have the opportunity to get this, because I don't know that we could otherwise. So yeah, blessings here at Three Squares, and thank you for anybody who supported us or bought our fried chicken or meatloaf. We appreciate that. We appreciate
All right.
it. So.
All right. Thanks, Marie. In advance, happy birthday. Frank, how about you?
Well, like everybody, 2020 was a year not to forget. In our trade, in our industry, it was one of the most heavy impacted as compared to others. We saw here locally, things that happened in the States, right? Restaurant closures, primarily Tumon related. However, the fine dining establishments, there's a number of fine dining establishments that went out of business. Other aspects of the restaurant industry fared better. Fast food, as an example, early on in the pandemic, with all the unknown, people felt a lot more comfortable in staying in their cars and going to drive-throughs as a form of food service, as opposed to dining in restaurants, which you couldn't even do. So that's a segment of the industry that actually fared quite well, that most likely had not even been able to apply for PPP or RRF, just given their, again, going back to their possible no losses. I have friends whose restaurants have closed, right? That's rough driving around. It's a reminder to us, to me personally, and us here at Jamaican Grill, that we'd be foolish to think that it could never happen to us, right? So we, in essence, modified our business model, changed our business model, simplistically put, Nestor, instead of offering table service to our guests, we transferred that to car service, in which we, increased our front of the house staff to service people in their cars. So it was our version of a drive-through. And we did so fairly aggressively and tried to market it, social media, so that we could have some kind of cash flow coming in. When we first closed, when the pandemic first hit, all 3 of our restaurants were closed within 6 days. We had the good fortune and blessing to be able to open them up strategically and getting everybody back to work, everybody on our payroll back to work within 3 months. And so we've been able to survive. But my heart really goes out to, those operators that are not as fortunate. Again, like Marie was saying, it's primarily Tumon based. So again, for anybody watching this message, please, for those Tumon restaurants that are still open, please support them. Please, find it within your means to go down there, if you have the disposable income to do so, and help to keep those Tumon businesses afloat, because tourism, I'm guessing, may be slow and steady to recover. So the restaurants down in Tumon, while we have this federal funding to our disposal, if we so qualify, it's still a ride, right? It's still a small business survival restaurateur ride. So I would just encourage your viewership to support Tumon restaurants, when they have the time and the disposable income.
All right, we are out of time. Frank Kenny, Ken Lujan, Marie Guerrero, and Mary Rose, thank you so much for talking about the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. Restaurants out there, make sure you apply. I'm Nestor Lecanto. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you again next week on In Full Zoom.
Thank you.
In Full Zoom is presented to you by Calvo Enterprises, Inc.